Let's start with what Open Mainnet actually is because, well, understanding the transition is critical. Pi Network started as a mobile mining project. Mining was the mechanism. Users installed an app. They tapped to mine. They earned Pi tokens. It was simple. It was accessible. No technical knowledge was required. That attracted millions. But mobile mining was closed. The network was closed. Users couldn't trade Pi with each other. Users couldn't transfer Pi freely. There was no market price, no price discovery. Pi tokens existed only within the closed ecosystem. External value was, honestly, speculative. Open Mainnet changes that fundamentally. Open Mainnet means the network opens to the broader cryptocurrency market. Users can trade Pi on exchanges. External parties can participate. Market mechanisms replace closed system controls. Price discovery happens through real supply and demand. This is the critical shift. Closed ecosystem means a protected environment but no real utility. Open market means you're exposed to real competition, but it enables real utility. You really can't have both. The trade-off is real. Once Open Mainnet launches, Pi enters a different competitive universe. It's no longer competing with other mining apps. It's competing with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Ripple, and thousands of other cryptocurrencies for capital, attention, and adoption. That's honestly infinitely harder than just being the easiest mobile mining app. The closed ecosystem could ignore what competitors were doing. Open Mainnet means Pi has to deliver better than competitors, or the price collapses relative to competitors. Now let's talk about the transition from mining project to utility asset. Pi started with a clear value proposition, easy mobile mining. That attracted millions. But easy mining isn't sustainable long-term. Mining alone doesn't create economic value. Mining just distributes tokens. Real value requires utility. Real value requires people using Pi for something, not just holding it, actually using it. That's the transition Pi is attempting. The planned features include decentralized exchanges. Users can trade Pi on-chain instead of depending on centralized exchanges. That's utility. That's real value. But DEX features are easy to plan and hard to execute. Building a working DEX requires serious engineering. Many projects plan DEXs that never materialize. Payments are another planned feature. Merchants could accept Pi directly. Users could pay with Pi instead of converting to fiat. That's real utility. But merchant adoption requires critical mass. Merchants won't accept Pi if only 1% of transactions use it. It's kind of a chicken and egg problem, hard to solve. Many projects attempt it, most fail. So, DeFi integration is also planned. That means, smart contracts, lending protocols, yield farming, all the DeFi mechanics you might expect. But honestly, DeFi is super competitive. Ethereum totally dominates the space, and Solana has some serious adoption too. Pi entering that space? Well, it means competing with these really established platforms, and that's, extremely hard. Here's the honest assessment. If Pi executes well on these features, real utility actually emerges. That's when real value creation happens, and long-term sustainability becomes possible. But, let's be real, execution is the hard part. Vision is easy. Thousands of projects have grand visions. Very few actually execute. Now Pi's big advantage is its user base. Millions of users could give it network effects if it can activate them. But network effects only matter if the network is useful. Otherwise, it's just millions of people, holding a token. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. KYC verification. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. It's all about identity verification. And yeah, it's required for regulatory compliance. Honestly, it's necessary for any serious cryptocurrency project, but, it's also extremely slow. Millions of Pi users must complete KYC verification to access Open Mainnet. Without KYC, their funds just stay locked. They can't trade, they can't access utilities, they're basically stuck. This is where adoption really hits a wall. KYC is a bottleneck, a serious bottleneck. Pi's team knows this, and they've been working on it, but progress has been slow. Migration delays are real. Users are frustrated, and some have been waiting months or even years. This is the critical execution risk. Open Mainnet doesn't mean much if millions of users can't access it because KYC verification is incomplete. The network becomes pretty much useless if it's just a small verified percentage participating. Compare this to Bitcoin or Ethereum. No KYC required. Anyone can participate instantly. That's a massive advantage. Pi has to work harder because regulatory compliance is necessary, but it's slow. The success of Open Mainnet depends heavily on solving KYC efficiently. If verification keeps moving at the current pace, adoption will be limited. But if Pi speeds up verification, adoption could really accelerate. This is make or break. History shows that a lot of projects underestimate onboarding challenges. They think they're just technical problems, but they're actually human and regulatory problems, much harder to solve. Pi could end up as a case study in how even good technology fails if onboarding is broken. Once Open Mainnet launches, the market structure changes fundamentally. Right now the Pi price is theoretical, it's all speculative really, and based on potential. But, once trading actually opens, that's when real price discovery happens. Real supply and demand will determine the price. That's also when volatility just explodes. It could spike up, or it could crash down. So early participants should definitely expect some sharp swings. This is, important to understand. Volatility isn't bad or good, it's just volatility. It creates both opportunity and risk all at the same time. Sharp upside means early profits for the believers, while sharp downside means losses for the latecomers. The history of cryptocurrency launches, well, it shows some pretty common patterns. New assets launch, hype builds, price spikes, then reality hits, execution misses, price corrects, and new buyers get burned. This is honestly the typical cycle. Pi is not immune to this cycle. In fact, Pi is probably more vulnerable because expectations are, extremely high. We're talking millions of users, years of hype, and promises of utility. When reality doesn't match those expectations, disappointment is extreme, and price crashes accordingly. But also important, if Pi actually delivers on utility, price can sustain or even grow. Real utility creates real value, and network effects create real demand. So, volatility in both directions is possible. The outcome really depends on execution. Traders should prepare for both scenarios. Have exit strategies if a crash happens, have conviction if utility materializes, but yeah, definitely prepare for volatility. If you understand why execution matters more than vision, you need to like this video right now. Just one click helps the algorithm reach people who think critically about cryptocurrency projects. Plus, go ahead and share this with other Pi community members. They really need to understand that hype doesn't equal adoption, and vision doesn't equal execution. Honestly, reality will soon show which is which. Here's the brutal reality. Many projects fail at the execution stage. Vision is easy. Every failed project has grand vision. But execution is hard. Execution requires sustained focus, technical excellence, capital efficiency, and timing. Pi has advantages. A large user base, an established community, and a differentiated approach. But honestly, advantages don't guarantee success. Advantages just mean Pi has better odds than most. The actual execution determines outcome. Real obstacles include things like the KYC bottleneck, which has definitely been demonstrated, the competitive DeFi space that's, very crowded, merchant adoption requirements where network effects are needed, and technical challenges in building reliable infrastructure. If Pi solves KYC rapidly, adoption could accelerate. If DeFi features work reliably, utility emerges. If merchants start accepting Pi, a real use case develops. If network effects activate, value creation compounds. But if KYC remains slow, adoption is limited. If DeFi features break under load, trust erodes. If merchants don't adopt, utility stays theoretical. If network effects don't activate, value becomes speculative again. History shows execution risk is real. Many promising projects fail because execution was harder than anticipated. Pi knows this. The team understands the challenge. But, knowing and delivering are different. The next 6 to 12 months will reveal which. So what separates projects that actually deliver from projects that become vaporware? Real execution, not vision, not hype. Actual delivery. Winners have working products, improving metrics, institutional adoption, sustainable business models, and a problem-solving mentality. Vaporware has grand promises, delayed launches, excuses for delays, broken features, and abandoned development. Pi's test is pretty clear. Does Open Mainnet actually work? Do utilities function reliably? Does KYC get solved? Does adoption accelerate? Does utility create real demand? If yes to most, Pi becomes real. If no to most, Pi becomes a case study in failed potential. There's no middle ground. Execution either happens or it doesn't. Thank you for watching this Open Mainnet reality analysis. Pi network stands at a critical juncture. Open Mainnet could unlock real value and sustainable adoption, or it could expose fundamental weaknesses and collapse under real-world stress. Hype will not sustain growth. Utility will. Execution will. The coming months will show whether Pi's vision matches Pi's reality. If you want to stay updated on Pi's actual execution, when utilities launch, how KYC progresses, whether adoption accelerates, what price does when trading opens, stay subscribed. We're tracking when it transitions from hype to reality. Check out the other videos on TJ Crypto World. We've got deep dives on cryptocurrency execution risk, utility adoption, DeFi mechanics, and everything else you need to evaluate projects critically. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate the Pi community's optimism, and I'll see you when execution reveals the truth.